With President Trump now endorsing Bitcoin, the orange pill is going mainstream at honey badger speed. Recently, Zero Hedge reported that 52% of major hedge funds now own Bitcoin. Meanwhile, thousands of companies are holding it as a corporate asset. And most important politically, President Trump gave Bitcoin his full-throated endorsement in a recent speech to rambunctious libertarians. Are we finally ending the Fed homebrew style and bottom up? So first, the numbers. A recent study surveyed asset managers with over $1 billion in assets, finding that 534 of them, so over half, have now incorporated Bitcoin into their portfolios. That list includes hedge funds, along with pensions and insurance companies, and even banks. The holdings total roughly $10 billion worth of Bitcoin, so about 143,000 Bitcoins out of the 20 million odd in existence. Roughly half of that is hedge funds, a quarter is financial advisors, and the rest is pensions, mutual funds, and even a few banks who hold close to 100 million in Bitcoin. The other interesting tidbit was corporate holdings, where over 1,000 companies now report holding Bitcoin as a corporate asset. On average, they hold 4 Bitcoin worth nearly 300,000. That's almost double the average holdings in last year's study, when companies reported just 2.5 Bitcoin at the time, worth just 70,000. Bitcoin tripled in price since then. Now, keep in mind that's just a subset of respondents, so the actual number of companies holding Bitcoin would be many times bigger. What's driving this, according to MicroStrategy CEO Michael Saylor, is that Bitcoin now has an infrastructure where institutions can hold it while following government-mandated Know Your Customer regulations. This lets those companies enter and provide much wider distribution for Bitcoin. So, for example, Cash App is selling 10 billion of Bitcoin every year. Compare that to 10 years ago when people were still meeting in parking lots to swap Bitcoin for cash, which is something your grandmother's not up for doing with her retirement portfolio. Perhaps the most important aspect here isn't just the wider distribution of the peace of mind, but the fact that with major players like Fidelity or BlackRock now selling Bitcoin, one of the biggest risks to Bitcoin that it might be banned is evaporating. After all, for better or worse, BlackRock gets what it wants in Washington, so the institutions are essentially regulatory plot armor against a Bitcoin ban. Finally, Donald Trump, in a rousing speech to a conference of amped-up libertarians, he announced that, quote, the future of Bitcoin will be made here in the USA, adding, quote, I will support the right to self-custody, meaning that you can own your own Bitcoin, your keys, your coins, as my show sponsor, Unchained.com, helps you do. Trump promised, quote, I will keep Elizabeth Warren and her goons away from your Bitcoin, and I will never allow the creation of a central bank digital currency. Now, this was all a crowd pleaser, as you'd expect from a room full of libertarians, and it's quite a shift since Trump's dismissals of Bitcoin back in 2021 because it competes with the dollar. Of course, that had it backwards. Like gold, the fact that Bitcoin competes with the dollar protects the dollar, stops them from inflating, since people will sell their confetti for hard money, whether it's gold or Bitcoin. Now, perhaps in the wake of Biden's inflation, Trump has now realized this, or more likely, he now understands his base likes Bitcoin as much as they hate CBDCs. So what's next? Brought to you by Unchained.com. Having the former president and current frontrunner wholeheartedly endorse Bitcoin is a huge step. Add in the regulatory plot armor and institutional adoption, it just got a lot easier to protect your life savings. Read the rest of the article with charts and all the gory details at profsatanch.com. Okay, we'll be watching. See you next time.